into this mythology. Paul's a connoisseur. Sarah has an interest, but it's all Greek to her. From Cronus's kids' weird childhood to what's going down in Hades' hood. These fables are bizarre but good. It's misunderstood.
Live.
Wow. Hey, it's been a while since we've heard that version of the song.
I've never heard it.
You've never.
I've disassociated at the beginning of every episode.
I think that's that was really nice. That brought some memories back.
Yeah, it brought some memories back. Fuck it, let's do it live.
Let's do it live. Hey, thanks for joining us for another episode of Myth Understood. And this one is very special because it is live, and we're doing this hot. We got producer Daddy Jake. He's hard at work in the booth.
Yeah, because the second we switched to the live frame, all the cameras reset, and so now nobody can see Paul. And so I'm trying to fix it in real time.
That's fine. Yeah, it's double Sarah.
If you didn't tune in live for this, you are missing out.
Oh boy,
on all the joy.
Wait, I'm watching this happen live.
Yeah,
That's my arm.
Yeah, your camera's just not working.
Yeah, thanks for joining us for this episode of Myth Understood with me. Me, Paul Bianchi. Oh, I did an involuntary flex right there. Me, Paul Bianchi.
Weird flex.
And her, Sarah Oliver. Today we are celebrating Thanksgiving ish time of year. And doing.
How is it next week?
I know that's well. It's the third Thursday of every November.
Oh my God, I hated that answer.
Yeah, it's sort of a wacky holiday that we celebrate over here in the U.S. Because it is
in itself a myth.
It is in itself a myth, but I've always enjoyed at least the time around the holiday, the eating food, the family time.
Yeah.
Like, that's always been really nice. Everything else about it is stupid, but
I think there's no shame in the game to appreciate what it has evolved to.
Yeah.
The idea, and it's such an anti-American concept, truly, to sit and be mindful and be thankful of what we have. And so that day, in particular, that moment where you gather with loved ones and you tell them, I mean, some households do it this way. Some people just carbo load, and there's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, some people choose to scream and fight at each other.
That's true, too. But in the concept of what it's evolved to now, sit, be mindful, take gratitude inventory of what's around you. That's a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I think you can enjoy that and also go, but the story we were sold when we were in elementary school is untrue.
Yeah.
That is a myth. It's a nicely packaged lie.
Yeah.
We didn't just sit down peacefully with Native Americans and then them hand over land and say, it's yours now. And then they got on.
That's actually part of my family tradition is there's an exchange of land. And also cholera.
Yes, exactly. I was looking up the history of Thanksgiving this morning. And I don't have it all written out, so it's not going to be a full myth by any means. But what happened is we arrived, the colonizers, you
were there.
Yeah.
You look great for your age, by the way.
Thank you.
She is a vampire.
I was on the Mayflower. I've lost my Mayflower since then, but I was on it. We arrived, and a tribe that I can't pronounce was there.
Great start.
Yep. And
you mean like for political correctness, like you can't pronounce it.
Yeah.
You don't want to get canceled.
I'm gonna butcher this, but if someone is listening or watching along and knows the answer, in my head it's Wampanoag was the tribe.
I think you're close. Hold
okay.
on. I might as well Google it while.
Yeah. Well, there she is. She is.
Who's she?
That's you. That's
what do you mean?
in live action. We're watching you.
Google.
Yeah, watching you Google.
It is still a podcast for the audio listeners.
That's
I just
right.
Want to let
I
know.
know.
Oh yeah. So yeah, if you're
So
listening
we're
to this
looking up the
episode
tribe.
at home right now, wondering what the hell's going on, this is yeah.
Have we said that we're live? Have we done that yet?
Yes, we've
Done it live. Thanksgiving Real Facts Tribe. This is one of my favorite things that the show The Other Two that I keep telling you about on HBO does, and Jake watches too.
Fantastic.
Is that one of the greatest recurring bits in season 2 is seeing how they Google things, because it's the way people Google things in real life.
Yes.
You know, Thanksgiving, how, when, how, why, like,
Yeah.
just terrible way. So, is that what you said?
Oh yeah, Wampanoag.
There it is, or Wampanoag. So yeah, it is not their first time ever seeing white people. You know, they had been dealing with people coming over and trying to take over shit for a minute, but at this time, the Native Americans population in general over all of the fucking North Americas had a giant, massive plague that wiped out a huge number
Likely
of all tribes.
What the Europeans brought over.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the numbers had diminished. So this chief of this tribe came up and was like, look, I know the name of the game. I'm going to be nice to you guys because our numbers are weakened and we have these other rebel, tribes nearby, rival tribes. They're also rebels. They wear leather jackets.
Yeah.
Greasers.
I was imagining them all getting together with Princess Leia at the base.
That's right.
Yeah.
A lot of Ewoks back then. Colonizers have also wiped them out.
Yeah, that's fair.
But they said, hey, we're going to make nice with you because, well, you're fucking here and it's a numbers game, baby. So we'll do this in a smart way. And still, even though we were pledging allegiance and having, a sort of peaceful interaction that was short-lived. Obviously, we did not stick to any sort of treaty made and wiped them all out.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when kids are like running around in pilgrim hats and stuff and just being like, what a nice day. It wasn't what it was. And they weren't as, just like naive as we try to remember things as well.
I think probably something that sticks in our memories given our age bracket is the movie Addams Family Values.
That's a more accurate retelling for sure.
Yeah. I think that story and everyone that has like a macabre bone in their body is like, this is fantastic, and this is the story we should be telling instead.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I mean, there still are a lot of groups that celebrate Thanksgiving as the origin of pilgrims coming over. And I would say that tradition is very misleading and dark. But if you're just going to sit around a table and say, I want to eat as many servings of mashed potatoes as humanly possible and hang out with my family and have some days off of work, like, go for it.
Go get it.
Go get it.
Go get them, Tiger.
Go get nasty.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, just keep in mind the myth of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind. Well, I wanted to say the correlation here is this is something that I'm thankful for.
Oh, stop it.
Is that I realized just yesterday that I don't really have hang-ups about my self-image the way that I had in my 20s. And how this came about is that Sarah and I have the same manager for acting. And every once in a while we'll get an email that says, hey, audition for this part.
Yeah.
There's a show on HBO called Minx.
Yeah.
Which is about women running a like Playboy? Playgirl-ish, yeah. And the audition was for a full frontal nudity part on the show. And I said, okay, yeah. I mean, if it's HBO and if the scene is like tasteful and it's not like my fear is always like the in that movie Euro Trip where they go to the nude beach and it's full of like ugly old men, and the joke is look at all the ugly old men with floppy dicks running in our direction. Like, I wouldn't want to be part of that crowd in that scene in that movie. But in HBO, in this like sort of the scene, it was like, yeah, sure, cool. If you cast me, I don't think. Here's the thing: is that like you get the audition and you think, Well, I don't have 1970s hair. This is supposed to be taking place
I
in
don't
the
have
1970s.
1970s pubes.
That's what I meant when I phrased it like
Yeah.
that. I think that, you go into these auditions completely understanding where you are at the deficit in the audition. So, but yeah, if I so happen to get this part, everyone's going to be able to see my junk.
What a beautiful thing to be thankful for on this blessed holiday.
I'm just worried why you brought it up on this, the first ever
Live?
live video version.
So, guys, if you
YouTube will pull us down, Paul. So
Yeah.
let's if you're really
I'm not
stick
going
around
to
to
give
the
You're
end,
hankering. You're
stick
hankering
around
to
to
get
the
out
end of
there.
the show, and you're gonna
I'm
get
not
a
going to
wing.
get I'm not going to give them a sneak peek. Today.
Just
I'm going to give them a full Monty.
oh,
Well, I think before we jump into, actually, before we move on, I should ask what you're thankful for, because I'm thankful for this. Shut up.
man, gratitude is like, I will say, as someone who like struggles with depression, gratitude is such a grounding force, and it's something that like can really be a life preserver in a lot of times when your brain is chemically drowning you in negativity. So it's something I try to practice, and I've been trying to restructure it in my life of like, no, I'm going to think about what I'm grateful for every day. And so there is something I appreciate about like a group of people getting in, and I'm also like a words of affirmation person. So just like sitting around and being like, I'm grateful for this about you. I'm just like, oh, I could live off this for the next 3 months. But I'm grateful to be back in LA. I'm grateful that I was just acting for a living.
Yeah.
And I am grateful for the incredible friendships that keep me afloat even in the darkest of days, which is daylight savings times.
Why you're reaching past me for something?
Pull up a better friend.
Well, I'm grateful to have you back, and I'm grateful for you and your health and your general well-being, because I do think that you've had more effervescence and joy recently, and that's been really lovely to see.
Thank you. And you know what I'm really grateful for? This fucking show and these fucking listeners.
LB in the chat says, "I'm grateful for Sarah."
Oh,
No mention of Paul.
That's fair.
And Morgane, to be honest, same.
Yeah.
Nice. I love you.
Well, I wanted to bring up something before we opened up the floor, because I had a request early on when we jumped into Egyptian mythology to talk about a certain deity, and I never talked about this deity in great length because there's not really much to say about them. And this deity's name is Medjed.
Medjed? Okay.
It's Meddjed.
I don't even remember you bringing him up. You probably did.
I might have. This is basically the story of Medjed. Medjed is mentioned in the Book of the Dead.
Ooh, my favorite book.
And there is one line about him. And this line basically says, there is a spirit who is unseen, who can fly and shoot lasers out of his fucking eyes.
No, it didn't say lasers.
Well, shoots from his eyes is how it's phrased.
Could be like a paintball.
It could be a paintball. But that's all that's said about him. But there are two depictions of Medjed, and where the story comes alive is actually in 2012. Because
yes, the most ancient of Egyptian years.
Yeah, the papyrus featuring the image of Medjed was taken to Japan and put on display in a museum, and people went apeshit.
How hot is this guy?
Super.
Wait, he's invisible.
Super fuckable. He looks like someone dressed up for Halloween as a ghost.
I love that.
It is just
It's a bed sheet?
yeah, just like a dome with eyes and little feet sticking out.
Oh, wait, so he's a Pac-Man ghost.
Yeah, but let me show you because I think
Isn't this one of the emojis on our Discord?
Oh yeah, I made the emojis so that people could because
Oh, awesome.
That's when you described it. I went, "Oh, I've seen this image."
yeah. Oh, did you just look it up?
No.
Okay.
Why would I?
Medjed.
Oh, wow. So he's just legs. So
Yeah.
he's on torso. Because this makes me. So he has eyes where a penis should be.
Can I say this is just what Cousin It looks like if you would have shaved him down?
That's
I think so.
right.
Yeah.
Just a buzz cut Cousin It.
But we don't see his powers in use.
In this version, well, we do.
Wait, do you have a real story to tell me?
But by the way, Morgan in the chat says my next Halloween costume.
Yeah. I like that he has eyebrows. That's
I do too. That's,
and also looks like painted townnails on this image.
it does.
Yeah, a little like sky blue.
Well, if that's your one body part to be proud of, you're going to take care of it.
So yeah, when I say people went apeshit though, when this came to Japan, it was like are you familiar with kawaii? The like Japanese concept of like if something's cute in Japan, they'll be like,
yeah.
oh, it's kawaii.
Yeah.
So they made like salt shakers, candles, calendars, t-shirts.
I do like the salt shakers. I'd like the salt shakers.
Yeah.
Put it on my wish list.
And it became such a hit that in 2016, an anime called Kamigami no Ki, or Chronicles of the Gods, was released, featuring Medjed as the main character, running and like doing battle alongside a kitty, Bastet, and a doggy, Anubis.
So this has gone full like Cartoon Network.
Yeah, like well, it ran for just one season, but it existed. And then there was an additional thing that happened. I feel like this is going to be new for you too. Atomi dating games. They are like cartoon dating simulation video games.
Is it the ones like you get ads for on your phone?
Yeah, they'll be like that. I think that they tend to be like the characters don't move. It's just like images, and then like one will get embarrassed and they'll blush. It'll be like a separate image of them blushing when you date them.
Why do you do this?
It's how I get my rocks off. But there was a game, and I couldn't really tell if it was released or just kind of promised to be released. But it was called Ejikoi Egypt Kami, where a female protagonist can date either Horus, Anubis, or Medjed.
This is such a specific fandom. This is awesome.
And in the game, because like it's common in these Atomi dating games for them to be school aged, so they wear school uniforms, and
I don't like that.
So but not like little school, but like high school.
I will tell you this. I've hit the mark in life.
Yeah.
Where I don't want to see anything where even it's like simulated high school sex. It creeps me out.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It hit me like this year where I was just like, ugh.
It hit you just this year?
Well, no. Where the suspension of disbelief is.
We've already established you're hundreds of years old.
Yeah. The suspension of disbelief of being like, anyone can relate to this stuff. It's just like, oh,
remember being a teenager?
No.
Like, no, not really.
Not really. For just like, the glorification of like sex in your youth is creeps me out a lot now.
But this could be, but I think this is like Paul's like cute dating. It's like, oh, the boy likes me.
Yeah, because I don't think that
I think
anyone
you're supposed to do that with it. You're supposed to do it every time you play the game. You're supposed to go.
Well, when the faces are of Horus, who has a little beak, and Anubis, who has a dog snout,
this is all
and
creepy.
Medjed, who has no mouth. What I was getting to is that they're all wearing blue blazers and a green necktie, except for Medjed, who's just wearing a green necktie that's like just floating in front of him.
By the way, W in the chat, Sarah is clearly not interested in beautiful youths anymore.
I guess so.
This has been the overarching story of
it really is
Sarah's
true.
interest in beautiful youths.
It's so true.
Similarly, Callum has started watching Buffy the Vampire Slayer for the first time. And he's, we're in season 2. Angel and Buffy he's like, this is wrong. He's 200 years old.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like he's 200 years old and she's 16, and it doesn't matter the amount of maturity someone occurs in like
Yeah.
that amount of time.
Unless they're trying to say that when someone gets turned into a vampire, they enter a state of arrested development, like, and he's just 18 forever.
I think that is what they're trying to imply sometimes, right? But
Yeah.
then they go the other way of being like, you don't understand the things I've seen. I've killed people and I've murdered for 100 years.
I know what you are. Say it. In the chat, we might have a brand new idea of a way to expand beyond podcasting for Myth Understood. Amp Spidey says, "Where's the Paul dating sim?" And that also does beg the question, like, maybe we just make a dating sim game where the three of us are your options.
Oh,
And we each have a little school outfit on.
Uh-huh.
And I have a sheet over my head.
Yeah, what would be my dating sim outfit? I don't want a school thing.
you don't. So you don't.
Would it be this outfit, my sparkly glittery jacket?
I mean, I think it should be what you normally podcast in.
Trash
yeah.
pajamas.
Sarah has a pink shirt that just says the word barf on it. So
I got rid of that finally.
Okay.
Finally. But I still have the shirt you bought me in New York that says "fuck you, you fucking fuck."
Oh yeah, I think that would be right. That seems
Okay, that's my dating sim.
If this is our testing room in the chat, like, I think we can go ahead and make this app. I think there's enough interest in it to where it'll be financially successful.
Yeah, because you have to pay. You have to pay $1 to kiss us or something for love points.
And
Love
also,
tokens?
Morgaine says it would be a clown costume. Would be your costume, Sarah.
Oh,
Wearing a clown costume.
she knows Clown Sarah.
And you would just be in all green. You'd be covered in moss.
I'd be so those
Swamp Thing.
those ads that you show me where like the girl is just covered in dripping mud.
Yeah,
That's me.
that's you, but
Yeah.
it's moss.
Mhm.
Beautiful. So Japan took a picture of a little a feet person with eyes
Yeah.
and skyrocketed into
He's fully
Magic Land.
a meme. If you go to Japan today, even it is likely that you can walk.
should we?
Yeah, today it is likely that you can walk into a store somewhere and find a stuffed Medjed. Like, it's just part of the culture now.
So that picture was uncovered, but no actual stories.
No,
Starring.
there's no mythology about Medjed. The true mythology about Medjed now exists post 2012.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, all myths keep being retold and keep being restructured,
Mhm.
and they're all like living organic stories, really.
It's the sort of thing that makes me wonder that if it, like, in 400 years, if there's still anything, that people will find all of the things about Medjed in Japan and say, like, look, people really believed in this deity. Like, he had a resurgence.
He's become a Japanese mythology
Yeah.
creature. Yeah, that's great. So I was wondering if you'd like to get into some of these questions
Yeah,
that
you
people
put out some
asked on Instagram. Yeah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So we have should I say people's names too, or just do the
Yeah.
questions? Okay.
People want recognition, Sarah. God.
Francisco.
Franz Sicko.
Francisco.
First names are fine, I guess. Just stick with the first.
Asked favorite mythology, why, and one favorite story from that mythology. This wasn't a question; it was a demand.
Oh,
There's no question mark here. Favorite mythology for you? Greek.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be Greek because it's what I was first introduced to.
Mhm.
This isn't to lambast other mythologies, but it kind of just has a head start above
Yeah.
all others in terms of how widely known and recognized and how dense it is. So it's just like
Right.
there's so much to choose from.
And to be fair, we've only done 3 mythologies, so
Yeah,
favorite of 3. Okay, so I'll ask you the second part of this again, or demand one favorite story from that mythology.
one favorite story.
Motherfucker.
I as a kid, and so there's like a nostalgia filter on this. My favorite story was the story between Artemis and Orion, and how Artemis had pledged to Zeus that she would remain a chaste goddess, which is such a weird thing to pledge to your dad.
Daddy, I won't ever.
Yeah.
I'll stay in this school uniform.
But it became part of like her leading by example, I guess, sort of way where she was like this. She was the goddess of maidens and virgins and young women, and so it conflicted when she meets Orion and did fall in love. And of all people, her brother stands in the way and murders Orion by sending a scorpion after him, and so that the intrigue and the tragedy and the layers of that myth always just like hit me right in the emo,
Right in the little emo.
right in the little emo. Yeah.
Okay, I will answer it because I'm here too.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite mythology. I guess the ones that we dive into and we have to learn and really know. I enjoyed getting to like immerse myself in Norse mythology. And I don't know that it's my favorite, but I enjoyed getting to actually like grasp the material more because I'm not just on the responding end.
Yeah.
And it's not just bouncing off of me and I'm, reacting to it. So I enjoyed the Norse stuff. What's my favorite myth?
Was it Diarrhea Bird?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one that made me laugh out loud the most when Odin turns into a hawk or owl.
It was your mythology.
Yeah, I don't know. He turns into a bird and he doesn't want this giant that also turned into a bird to get. They're like in a race, so he diarrheas on the giant. That's a good one. And it's just beautiful.
It is. It has the same sort of like beauty and layers and conflict that I was talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question from the chat because you already covered favorite myths that you talked about on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And this one comes from Celtic Sunflower, and I apologize. I have to do this.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite myth not covered on the show? She said that I had to read her questions out either in a super lady voice or a total gremlin. So
Okay.
Okay.
I picked total gremlin.
I thought it was just you saw Celtic Sunflower and was like, sorry,
what they sound like?
that is the voice they must
Sorry.
have.
I gotta do
It would have
this.
been my first.
Yeah.
But once again, what is your favorite myth not covered on the show?
I have mine right off the bat.
I love that people can't see me. That makes doing the voice better.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's a full gremlin.
Mhm.
He's naked like a golem with just a loincloth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So my favorite is I'm learning it the incorrect way. I'm learning it retelling style.
Uh-huh.
Is the Morrigan.
Oh, the story of Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay.
And-
In Arthurian legend?
Arthurian legend.
You know what? That's actually just because it came up. Let me find the name. Don Thompson in the chat. Dom wants to know whether Arthurian legend is on the table for future.
Oh yes, it is, baby.
Because yeah, I'm right there with you, Don.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with Arthurian legend myself,
Mhm.
and that is
That's going to be a me one.
it's so rooted in so much of modern storytelling that I feel like there's so much to play with.
Well,
that.
and it's such a fun one because there is such crossover again of like history
Right,
and
sure, yeah.
mystifying history, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Arthurian legend is up there, and it's coming
Yeah.
at some point.
I would have to say it's funny because I've delved deeply into Greek and Egyptian, so it's hard to pull outside of it.
right.
But I remember reading the story of Amaterasu from Shinto mythology and being very interested in that story. It's kind of a in my memory of it. It's a common story about when you have these sun gods, how terrifying it is if the sun one day is out of the sky. And so I think it's a myth that it explains a disappearance of the sun, perhaps via eclipse or just like
Mhm.
a blacking out due to a volcanic explosion, something along these lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's a specific mythology that I don't know falls under the umbrella of the sort of topics, because so far the program has been, regionally based. It's been, countries and
Yeah.
religion. American cryptozoology mythology,
Oh yeah.
I feel like, is a whole brand of mythology
Oh,
that has
absolutely.
yet to be tapped. And for me personally,
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to hear all about the Jersey Devil.
Mhm.
Jersey
Yeah.
Devil is one of my favorite weird American mythologies, and we have like no American mythology.
Mhm.
So I feel like that's a whole other area.
Yeah,
where
that would
places
be-
I mean,
pull
there's
from.
there's plenty of Native American mythology.
Sure,
but
sure.
Yeah.
our
Of course.
own wacky
Yes.
United
200-year-old mythology.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, and then that's easy enough too. I mean, there's history meets um widespread panic that turned into mythology, like the vampire
Yeah.
panic of the New England area and all of that. And so that there's definitely source material there. So here's a great question. Which god would you pick from Greek, Norse, and Egyptian myth for a three-way brawl? I believe it's one of each. This is by Tanner Polsley.
Oh, so we're gonna see them like claymation celebrity deathmatch style.
Wow.
I know that's a throwback.
You know,
but,
we have
like,
a lot of Gen Z listeners. They're just gonna not know what the fuck that is.
They brought that back fairly recently.
Did they really?
Yeah, they brought it back like within the last 10 years.
All right.
There was a whole revamp of it. And it was all modern celebrities. And I thought, like, oh, it's not as fun with these people because I don't care about them as much as I
Yeah.
did the trashy celebrities of the 90s.
God, what a fucking memory you just ripped me into. Yeah.
I suppose if I wanted to see a fight between three, I would want it to be a fight that either is like, because they are all the same type and they represent the same type, like are we gonna have Freya, Aphrodite, and Hathor go at it because they are
Freya has good powers.
I know they all have good powers though.
Aphrodite?
Yeah.
How's she gonna hold up in a fight?
She fought during the Trojan War. She got injured.
I just want W in the chat says Drew Barrymore would beat all of them.
Drew Barrymore,
Oh,
that's
that's
for sure.
right.
Good throwback.
Or would it be more fun to see three of the wackiest?
Here's my
to
pitch.
go at it.
Dionysus from Greek,
Dionysus from Greek, okay.
who from Egyptian is similar. Who's a party boy.
Medjed, because we don't know.
Okay, Medjed from
You don't know what's
Egyptian.
going on under that.
That's
Under
true.
that
No,
shoe.
he has even better powers if he has lasers coming out of his eyes. where
Yeah.
Dionysus can't do that.
hmm
And then
Or salt coming out of his eyes, depending on if that's
salt.
really salt.
Yeah. And from Norse, who would be comparable to that in Norse? Diarrhea owl? I don't know.
Diarrhea owl. All right. I'm channeling my real answer is more. I'd like to see Sekhmet versus Athena versus Thor, and I just think that that's just like a real classic battle of like, these are three people who really know how to fight. And you might say like, oh, why not Ares instead of Athena? But Ares got shoved in a jar by a giant. I don't think that he's as formidable as Athena.
I think Athena's like the prowess and the
And she's just going to turn them
strategy.
both into birds.
That's right.
Yeah.
She's like the strategy of war, and Ares is like the feeling of going to war. I almost think he embodies, like the rage and the desire to dominate
Mhm.
and conquer, versus she's like strategical.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chris in the chat says, yeah, Hebby and her cups would beat everybody.
That's right.
Just smashing cups
That's
over
right.
bitches' heads.
She's got an endless supply of them.
Mm-hmm. I have a question here from Love Like a Book on Instagram. How much does mythology tie into your everyday lives?
Oh, actually, I think it's a lot. I think it's kind of a funny thing, because I think that mythology has shaped and sort of created the way that modern storytelling it has evolved. And as someone who is a writer and aspires to have a career and recognition as a writer, it's like, it's just, I can't, I might be following the Hollywood formula to quickly knock out a script, but that Hollywood formula came from the origins
Yeah.
of mythology.
Yeah. No, I agree. As someone that's I'm always trying to learn more about not just structure, but every aspect of writing and storytelling. And the more you learn, I think it enriches the way you look at your next undertaking. And honestly, Greek mythology is not the only one. Like
Yeah.
a lot of it comes down from it, but all over the world, storytelling got finessed into the way that we tell stories now.
I think too that like having just like a basic grasp of mythology also like enriches my life experience by because people are drawing allusions to it all the time. And so when you see it in TV or film, or someone
Yeah.
makes a comment in an interview or whatever, like having the base knowledge is it's very satisfying.
I know. I mean, one of the reasons I pitched this fucking podcast was I remember watching like a Frasier episode or something, and he mentioned like,
I feel like he would talk about like Sisyphus pushing up the boulder.
yeah, something like that, like Sisyphus, and I was just like, fucking hell, man, I want to know, I
Yeah.
want to be in on the joke. And the joke in Frasier is normally like these haughty guys have
Yeah.
all this information, but they're just doofuses.
There are a couple of hotties.
Yeah. but it does it I don't know, it creates an extra layer of context in the world around you if people aren't talking about that. Okay, here's a good one. If you each had to assume any god's power and responsibility, who would you choose? This is by Yoga Bug 09.
I don't think it would be anyone from ancient Egypt for me, because I feel like they had such specific responsibilities. I think that I would
Felt like they were like Power Rangers.
Yeah, they all kind of had to do things. Like they had to be on the duat and like
Yeah,
fight
that's-
Apophis every night, and they had to
Yeah.
like I like Anubis, but I don't want to measure hearts all the time, like or weigh hearts. So I feel like it would be a Greek one because or a Norse one, because they were just kind of doing their own things. They didn't have a whole lot of responsibilities.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of, it's funny because he's we joked about him being a sociopath, but I kind of like that, like Apollo just like he delegated the sun job. He didn't have to charioteer it. Helios did that for him. So he just hung out and played music. And that sounds great.
It's not a power.
Well,
What's his power?
Delegation.
his power is he's god of music and the sun. So he's like, he doesn't, but like none of them really had,
He's a frat boy.
none of them had responsibilities.
All right.
He's just that guy that brings the guitar to the bonfire.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly,
come on, bro. We're trying
I'm
to have a
exactly.
I'm not saying
conversation
though
here.
that I'm going to take on his mannerisms. Also, like I'm not going to.
You say
not-
that now, but
I'm not-
Jake will be decapitated by the end of this podcast.
I'm not gonna. That's true. He will be a real hyacinth in this.
Okay, well, mine is obviously Freya
Uh-huh.
because she had a sick whip, just a bunch of cats, a chariot of cats. But also, I liked the way the Norse gods were like, you get a little bit of everything just because you're a god. Like, she wasn't just like feminine stuff. She's
Yeah.
also like fighting and, what?
No, I'm sorry. It's chat. I don't want to derail you.
Oh,
Continue.
okay.
I'll tell you after.
And she really liked her jewelry. so and she just kind of got to do her own thing. And so I dig Freya. And I think Freya would she'd like date an Apollo. She wouldn't date him serious though. He's very fuckboy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the chat is still caught up on the people fighting, and it's just a bunch of cupbearers. And, the greatest evil, of course, is people that don't use coasters. Lots of good stuff in the chat. And for the past 5 minutes, it's been going on. And Don says, I love how they're talking about taking God's powers and responsibilities in real life. And we're just in the chat fixed on cupbearers.
Yeah, truly the greatest power of all. Because I wouldn't be having to just hold this. I need someone here. Thank you, Hebby. Okay, so I have an off-brand.
You gotta spin that label around. That's not a sponsor. That's
Oh.
free advertising. No, I'm
This.
joking.
Oh, I want to be sponsored, please.
Like Diet Coke? Is that what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's an off-brand one. What is your favorite musical?
Oh.
Mine's easy. Sound of Music. You got it all. You got Julie Andrews at her fucking finest. You got Christopher Plummer, just a nasty, beautiful
Christopher Plummer?
plumber.
I was gonna let it go.
Yeah,
I
Christopher
was kinder
Plummer
in that moment.
being a sick little daddy. Oh, he's so fucking hot in that. And then amazing music, and you got fucking Nazis that come out of nowhere in the third act and take over the movie. And we got Nazi haters as our leads. I love it.
I think mine. Geez, it's really hard to choose. I think mine might be.
Isn't it once?
It's hard to qualify
They're
that
throwing
as.
shade in the chat. I love it. Morgaine says Paul looks like his favorite is Annie.
Oh no. It actually might. It might be Urinetown, but that also might be with the memory of seeing it and what an amazing surprise it
That's
was.
fine. It
Yeah.
can come with the memory.
I feel like
yeah.
my favorite's heavily influenced by the fact that I got to be there. Like, it's hard for me not to say that the Producers is not my favorite because I saw it like opening week, and that energy,
Yeah.
even if it's just as good, if not as good as other shows out there, like it's hard to
And it has Nazis.
remove yourself. Also, Nazi. We love Nazi.
We love Nazi
Although I like a
musicals.
comedy Nazi.
Yeah, and
Sound of Music is so slapstick.
and you Urinetown has allusions to Nazis, like with like the behavior of the people.
Wow.
Mhm.
The hits keep coming. Okay, let's see.
I got a question.
oh,
Are
go
either of you familiar with, this one comes from Don in the chat, are any of you familiar with the Percy Jackson series? Have you seen it? If so, do you have any opinions on it?
I'm familiar with what it is, and I have seen visuals from the I suppose cinematic telling of it, but I've never watched it. I know that there are a lot of listeners who watched it or read it. I know there's a lot of listeners who are very familiar with it, and they've actually come to our podcast from Percy Jackson being the impetus for their intrigue in mythology, and I'm really happy that it exists, that because it does invite people into mythology.
Mm-hmm.
I think I haven't had a real interest in watching it, and I think it's because my impression of it is that it's for a younger audience,
And it hasn't, like we're in like a creative bubble of nerds who
Yeah.
like things that are often for kids. And if our group isn't talking about it and doesn't like it, then it feels like, oh, it's clearly hasn't surpassed that bar of it's for kids, but it's still a really well told story that's interesting.
yeah.
So yeah, I'm in the same boat where it's like,
I think though that if I had like a friend who was like, no, you definitely need to watch this,
Right.
and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna watch one tonight.
Gun to your head.
Gun to my head.
I know, a
weirdest-
shotgun in your mouth.
the weirdest terrorist of all time. He's like, I just really like Percy Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, and I don't really have any burning desire to. But I understand how it's a good introduction because you're introducing a new person, and you're saying, here's their introduction into the world. Use Percy as your conduit to all
Yeah.
of this mythology. But by doing this podcast, I have become Percy myself. So, no, I'm good.
I got another question from the chat that's real topical because this is, of course, the official Thanksgiving, Myth Thanksgiving.
Sure is.
Mhm.
Thanksgiving is this upcoming week. Really hard-hitting questions here. Wait, I got to remember who said it. LB, what's your favorite Thanksgiving dish? And why?
Oh.
And the answer for the and why, she didn't add this, I'm adding this. It can't be because it tastes good.
Okay. So I am preparing to make this dish for the second time, and it's a regular dish.
Irregular?
That's what I heard. I heard that as well, Sarah.
Irregular. It's
Irregular. Okay.
It's not. It's. I don't think it's on most people's Thanksgiving tables, but it's something that my mom, Julie Bianchi, has.
Have I had it by her?
Maybe because you've been to a few Thanksgivings.
Yeah.
She has had a tendency to make poached pears as dessert.
Yes, I've had your poached pears. They're very good.
And so I think it's just that where it's like you finish the Thanksgiving dinner and it's so full and you're like, oh, I don't know if I can have a piece of pumpkin pie now that like that sounds so dense, but like a poached pear is like just the right amount of like sweetness and lightness to just.
What about of the classics, Thanksgiving classics?
Oh, of the classics, I love a side of green beans.
Green bean casserole?
No, just green beans.
Mine's green bean
just
casserole.
straight from the ground.
Let me tell you guys, mine's green bean casserole. And last night I went grocery shopping, and I was just, I just try to grab whatever is easy to make because I'm very, very lazy, and I'm not a cook. And there was like a pre-made medium size, like almost personal dish size of green bean casserole. Scoop that bitch up. I'm just gonna sit down and wolf it down.
Wow.
Way before Thanksgiving. It's gonna happen. So yeah.
So this last weekend I was working on a Walmart ad, and I had to prepare.
Shout out to that little mom and pop shop.
Yeah, little Walmart. I had to prepare a Thanksgiving dinner, and or not Thanksgiving, but like a Christmas dinner, but it's all the same kind of food. And so I decided to make sweet potatoes, but like with like the marshmallows on top.
Mhm.
So I just I had some of the like the instant mashed potatoes, just mixed it with water, and then added food coloring till it was the color.
So it was orange.
Till it was the color of mashed potatoes, and then I cut marshmallows, and I had a little torch to torch them, and I put them on the table, and then the
No.
client says, "Why are there hard-boiled eggs just like in a dish on the table?" And I look at it on camera, and absolutely, just like torching the middle of each of these like giant-sized marshmallows made it look like hard-boiled eggs.
That's
on
hilarious.
Camera. Yeah, so I had to go and like torch the entire thing so that
Okay.
it looked crispy across.
And now you guys have learned the truth about food, predominantly in commercials, but in everything.
Yeah.
It is undercooked. It is probably not the thing that you think
Yeah,
is being advertised.
ice cream is often mashed potatoes.
Mhm.
Milk is Elmer's glue, and
then pizza. We've done pizza stuff. That's all lacquered.
Yeah.
The shine that you see in a pizza commercial, that's all like paint. Isn't it sometimes actual paint lacquer on top
I
to
think
make it
so.
shiny?
Yeah, and then
It's inedible.
and then motor oil is pancake syrup.
So have fun at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Because that's real ingredients they use, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so I have a question from Red Striped Pajamas. Are you guys planning to take the show on the road? Would love to see you guys in a live show.
Oh, we have talked about it. Since I've spent a lot of time in Edinburgh, we had talked about how doing a live show at Edinburgh Fringe would be something we would consider in the future. It is a expensive venture to take the show on the road, either to Scotland or to anywhere. So it'd be figuring out the finances of it.
Yeah, I would love to do it. It'd be really fun, but it would have to be something where anytime you're missing the ability to work in a local situation, you need to be making money elsewhere. And I guess that's where ticket sales would come, but we'd have to have a guarantee of like,
Yeah.
hey, we'll make this much money if we go do it in this place.
Also, without me, the whole thing would fall apart.
That's absolutely
Let's just
true.
be true.
Yeah,
You guys would just like show up to a random club on like a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And they would be like, what are you supposed to do? What are you doing here?
Where's Daddy Jake?
Daddy? Okay, so I have a 2 trolling questions from Fieldman Worker.
Okay.
All right. She asks, what is your favorite? And she also asks, would you sweaters or sushi?
What is
I don't think these are trolling questions. I think these are completely legitimate.
to answer the first question?
What is
Yes.
your favorite? What is your favorite? Yes.
Yes. And
Would you sweaters or sushi?
I would sushi.
Oh, see, I'm sweaters.
Mhm.
Wow. These are our differences. And
I have a great. Oh wait.
oh, please give
was
it.
there-
No, give it to us.
This is actually a really fun one because we talk about like, oh, your favorite myth, your favorite this. This one gives a little bit of credit to the musician who sings the theme song,
Zen.
Zenith. I, of course, write all the lyrics to the opening theme, whatever, no big deal. But Kristen in the chat says, do you have a favorite version of the Myth Understood theme song?
Oh, yes, I do.
You like the Greek the best.
No,
Ooh.
I like the Egyptian one the best.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The Egyptian one.
It has the wolf howl.
That
I like that
The
it's
hardest. That was the hardest one I know for a fact to make because we started with Greek, and it's a Greek melody. So even the melody that we have to then make Norse, make Egypt, make whatever's next is still the melody of the theme song, which was rooted in Greek, and that's the biggest jump. You know, like to make something sound Egyptian. So that was the most difficult. So I'm sure Zen will appreciate that.
I actually really appreciate the Egyptian one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really cute.
I liked writing the Norse one the best because we knew it was going to be metal and fun.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was. It was. They're all so good.
That was also the one where Zen and I went the most back and forth recording the patterns, the vocal patterns, because the words are obscure. You know, saying Yggdrasil is a glorious wood, and writing that and sending that to him, and him being like, "All right, how does this fit into the music?"
Yeah.
It's absurd. But yeah, I look forward to whatever's next, and I hope that we have enough time to make it.
You definitely will. We know what's next.
Lovely. Ooh, stay to the end, maybe.
Stay to the end. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We're definitely announcing it now. Jake, how would you like a question from Love Like a Book?
Only if you read it as a sweet little lady or a troll.
For Jake, what's it like watching these two record and not being allowed to intervene? I love the implication you're not allowed.
Can I say I somebody asked this in the chat?
Oh, they double posted?
I've already answered it. Oh, I don't know if it's the same person. Who was it that said that?
Love Like a Book?
No, so I don't know if it's the same person, but Morgan in the chat.
It's Book Like a Love.
Morgan in chat asked the almost verbatim exact same question.
Did she say you're
and
not allowed?
answered it. I answered it. The question I answered in the chat was, it's extremely difficult, especially because Paul talks so slow and I am a New Yorker who uses overlapping speech. So I want to like, oh yeah. And then I want to like finish the sentence or I want to do that thing. But Paul's very like, you know, he's like very like, I'm going to get there when I get there.
Yeah.
He's just on a journey.
He's a measured storyteller.
I just imagine if you did that, like if it was like, and then Dionysus's lover was left for dead and became petrified. And so when Dionysus returned, you're like, oh, he fucked himself with his petrified penis. I was like, how did you know that?
First off, well, one, I don't work blue. You know that. And two, that's exactly what would happen. Yes.
And three, perfect impression.
Perfect impression of me. Very good impression.
Yeah. See, I if we're riffing, if we're going back and forth, overlapping conversation, totally fine. If I'm the one that's done the research and I'm trying to tell the story, it's a literal ADHD brain reset.
I see that happen to Paul.
Yeah.
Where he's reading something that he's prepared. And it's like he's halfway through the sentence, and you throw something in there, and he goes, "Sure,
yeah,
sure, whatever," and then has to finish the sentence.
Yeah, it's a hard reset of like, oh, you've just wiped everything out of my mind. Fuck.
But yeah, to answer, thanks for both of those people if they're two different people. But yeah, it's sometimes it's easier than it is. Sometimes it's tougher than it is because it's also just tough to. I mean, you guys listen to the program. I'm sure you all know what it's like to listen to a podcast and be yelling at your podcast player. Imagine being in the room in sight for it. And it's that same level of you know, frustration. But
hey guys, let's pour some booze out for our poor fallen brother here, Jay, who has to
Also,
listen to us talk.
I also, while I do, I'm here to obviously start every episode for security's sake. Sometimes I go to the other room and do work while you guys record.
What
So
do
I'm
you
not
mean
here
sometimes?
for every.
You always leave. You're like, fuck this.
That's not entirely
Say,
true.
Fuck this. You mace us, and then he runs away.
So much macing.
That's why sometimes the episode begins with Sarah going. That's not her singing.
Yeah.
If you ever hear the sound of milk being poured, it's generally into someone's
in my eyes. Yeah. So that is about what I have.
Rebecca,
from the Instagrams.
Rebecca says Jake is like an excitable puppy and Paul's the golden retriever.
Oh, what kind of dog am I?
Well,
a cat.
I'm gonna go Labrador. Oh yeah, no, you're the cat. Yeah. The
Just
three of us
pushing shit off a counter, watching it break.
Here's another one from W. This is a really hard question.
Okay.
Oh no.
What would be your mythological name? I guess you have to pick.
I mean,
a
just
region?
just improv brain me just was like off the bat like Polycoddle.
Polycoddle. I mean that. It does sound like a growth.
It's a medical condition.
Yeah. Oh, I've got a polycoddle on my back. Can you get rid of it?
I don't know
Why not Apollo? Just spelled with your name.
Apollo.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
What's mine, bitch?
Sarah Nana.
It would just be Cersei because they're all Cersei.
That's right. I'll take it.
Yeah.
So
here's another one from Don, who might get their answer in the quiz episodes, which I know, Sarah, you love. I have a question for Sarah. How much of what Paul has taught you do you remember? Specifically of the Greek myths, because it was the first ones recorded from all that time ago.
So I think just the way you leave high school with like a general idea of things without the ability to like recall super specifics, unlike you, Paul, fuck off. But like, but for normal people, the like, oh yeah, that rings a bell, or I remember that story, and some things I need to be reminded about because again, Greek in particular is extremely dense. I actually think Egyptian was harder for me to like grasp onto things.
Yeah.
I think
the names
make
it a little bit tougher.
Yeah.
Like there's something about the Greek names, and it might just be because Greek is so much more prominent in pop culture and in our culture. Like you say, it's like the OG, really.
Yeah.
So we can pull a reference of something when you hear a name, and you can attach a personality, a story, a character to it, where with some of the Egyptian ones, especially the ones that are like a syllable, it's almost like could we cast an actor for every season of Myth Understood to play a character? That way it's easier for me to grab onto that face when being told the story. Like that it's tougher. Yeah. But I do think Greek was the one that as a listener I retained the most of. Yeah. Although Norse too, but it might just be because I've read so many Marvel comics.
Yeah. I mean Norse is a cheat for me because I did the research.
Sure.
But like Greek is I feel confident that I know what people are talking about. That's where I land with that.
Yeah, I think with Norse because I went into it with a blurry watercolor of knowledge around it that like picking up from you, it's now a blurry watercolor with a sketch on top of it, but it's still not like it's not a finished image the way that like the ones I researched feel like to me.
Yeah, it's like go listen to Neil Gaiman's book afterwards to solidify things.
Yeah,
basically, yeah. Which I feel like I would need to watch something on the History Channel about Egyptian mythology to like fill in and solidify like me feeling comfortable with the knowledge. Yeah.
All right. So we're coming to the end of our stream here. Do you want to wrap it out with a really dense, deep question or a silly question?
Both.
All right, we're gonna do both of them.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then we'll do the silly one first.
Yeah.
And then we'll end it on a real serious note. And then you can just like really somberly wrap the show up.
Okay.
All righty. This one comes from friend of the pod, friend of the network, Susa. We love Susa.
Hey.
Yeah.
A Greek god turned you into an animal or plant for your crimes. Well, what were you turned into? And B, what did you do?
Okay, so you have to be turned into something bad because
Plant
it's a
or an
punishment.
animal?
Well, what would you not want to be?
Here's I think my crime was that I was not good at being like responsive or like in text messaging or like I wasn't like
oh my God, Paul.
I wasn't communicative.
Zeus
thus,
tried to reach out to you, asked you to do a favor for him.
Yeah.
You ghosted.
And I hate like making people uncomfortable. I hate like being in the in that sort of loud
conflict avoidant. Yeah.
So I think that I'm turned into a rooster because now every morning I have to crow and wake everyone
really
up.
Well thought out.
I was going to say like a carrier pigeon. Just because it's like, you never respond. Now you're going to permanently be sending messages.
Oh, yeah.
A carrier crow.
But that's just a job.
It is true. You're just given a task.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
Don't kill the messenger. It's Paul.
What about you, Sarah?
Okay, what is my crime?
Well, how will you know yourself?
What is your crime?
I don't know her. Her?
Egg?
Egg. What is my crime? Probably
sloth.
Fuck you!
It
I was
doesn't
gonna
have to be
say
a biblical sin.
being.
You could have just said like she
She-
stole some bread.
I would say like being not respectful to a god or something.
Oh,
like
right,
not
yeah, yeah. Oh,
differential
it would
enough.
be
being too
it
sarcastic.
would be like treason or whatever. Like what do you call it? Where it's like you you turned your back
Blasphemy.
on a god. Blasphemous.
Yeah.
That's what you were.
yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely blasphemy.
Yeah, like because I get anti-authority a lot, and not a lot, but when I think things are unfair, and very often Greek gods are very unfair.
Like the
And
the
so-
moral of the story is to like,
Just
well, the gods are
swallow
better
it.
than you, and swallow that.
yeah, and I get very up in arms when I think someone is like, flexing a thing that shouldn't be flexed.
Mhm.
A penis. I don't know. So, what
I mean,
animal would I be turned into?
But that's what I like. Where my brain just went to. I was like, well, Zeus would probably try to try something with you.
That too. So, what would I be turned into that would suck? What would be my punishment for being blasphemous? I don't know. What do you think?
Is there an animal who like cannot speak or like is universally silent? Makes no sound?
A sloth.
Yes. Oh, and it comes full circle.
I was thinking though that if you had besmirched Zeus, that it would be like you're turned into the tallest tree that like always gets struck by lightning.
Oh,
Okay. So I'm not an animal. I'm a tree.
plant. Yeah,
Mm.
well,
I'm a
she did
tree
say-
covered in sloths.
Yeah, they did say plant or animal.
Yeah.
Alrighty, and so before we wrap up, the last question comes from W, who's just been batting 1,000 here in the chat. How does your myth end?
Ooh.
I know, right?
How does
I don't
my-
know if this is about murder or eternal life or both. How would your myth
I think
end?
the myth
it could
of-
be the myth of Myth Understood. It could be the myth of the show, not like you two. It doesn't need to be like Paul's and Sarah's. The Paul and Sarah myth. How
Well,
does it end?
I think the Paul and Sarah myth. Paul remains a prolific writer, gets a lot of his stuff made, is happily married, and travels the world.
Oh,
I think it's the tree and the lightning, personally.
And I think I get struck by lightning. Yeah.
I mean, I was. That's a very nice thing to say. I was going to say that the myth of Myth Understood and the myth of our lives is intertwined, because we've talked about our lives creatively and our creative goals, and I think that the goal for Myth Understood and our lives are very similar in that, like, we don't know how long anything is going to last or what's going to happen, but for the time that they exist,
Keep learning, keep laughing.
sure, but I was gonna say that, well, yeah, that's a lovely sentiment, but I was gonna say it's amazing the amount of connections and the way that people are touched and the way that the people get to absorb the stories and engage with us. And that's what I want with my work outside of Myth Understood, and that's what you want with your work outside of Myth Understood. Is
Yes.
like there,
Let us entertain you.
yeah, like there aren't, neither of us have like aspirations for like great wide-reaching fame like an A-list celebrity might have, but it's
Even though we've been offered it several times.
but it is nice that through having a continued following and bringing people together and sharing and growing and living and laughing. There you go. It came back.
You love to say live, laugh, love. Just say it.
Live, laugh, love.
It's all over. It's
on
all over
every-
his house.
It's on every pillow.
Yeah, that's right.
Every pillow. I have 400 pillows in my
Yeah,
house.
there's no carpet.
Yeah. I live in a padded cell.
So how about we leave it off telling them what's to come?
Yeah, what is to come?
What do you think?
Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like it's years to announce.
yeah, it's been
1 week since you looked at me. Sorry, I had to. You left too much of a gap.
I did. It's been regularly requested, and there's other mythologies we're gonna get to, but I don't know if I'm gonna say it's just specifically this or regionally group it all into one thing. But we're heading to the British Isles.
For what?
The mythology of the British Isles.
That's what it's going to be called, the
Yeah.
British Isles?
I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
well, you would call it Celtic,
There we go.
Arthurian, Gaelic, but I don't know
Oh.
how we're splitting it up or if we're just going to share it.
I think that is smart to clump it together.
Yeah.
And not to say that like each mythology is not worthy of its own theme song, but I think that is kind of where we get into where we don't want to put Jake and Zen to work every time that we switch mythologies, specifically if the mythologies themselves might be 15 episodes, like
yeah. I mean, Arthurian legend is dense in its own regard, but not to the point of like, producing as many episodes as even Egyptian did, So
yeah.
we're heading over to the British Isles, and I'm gonna take the lead on that, and maybe you'll pop in and do your own shit for some, because it's also we have a shared culture there. We're just extremely pale, white, English background, and
Yeah.
so we can maybe
just like Midget.
pop back and forth. Yeah.
So just talk. You're saying that just talking about our own like grandparents is the mythology then.
The myth of the pale folk.
Oh yeah, I could tell you all about the weird, problematic way that my grandmother and my grandpa met.
Wonderful. Tune in soon. So that's it, guys. Thank you for tuning in to our Myth Understood live Q&A sesh.
Mhm.
And I am going to throw it over to you, Paul.
You're gonna throw it over to me. Oh, I always do it. Actually, I wanna continue to throw it over to Jake because he's the best at it.
He really is
Oh
the
my
best. Do a wrap
gosh.
up, Daddy.
Listen, you've only been doing this for 5 years now.
Yeah.
I don't want to say. Okay, let me go back to that question. What's it like sitting in the room while
Oh
these
yeah.
guys?
This is the most painful part for him.
Yeah.
Commercial tears. They are not. Is that a word? Commercial tears.
Commercial
I like
tears?
It. Commercial tears. Like that's like I'm a person who commercials is a commercial tear.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
was gonna say.
I
we
thought you were saying
we
like
shed
crocodile tears.
Yeah,
So I
we
was like,
shed tears when we're forced to do
Hey,
this.
do you want some sweet Myth Understood merchandise? Well, you gotta march your happy ass on over to mythunderstoodpodcast.com. There you can find links to all of the fantastic merchandise. You can find the link to the Patreon where you can become a patron and support this fantastic little podcast. You can also find the links to our Discord community, which is like 400 plus strong. It's for the entire network. There are threads there for this podcast, for every other podcast on the network, as well as specific fandoms, and there's some for pop culture and movies. So it's a really great place to be. A lot of people that are in the chat here I love that I'm recognizing names from the Discord. So check that out. You can find all of it at mythunderstoodpodcast.com. That's mythunderstoodpodcast.com. Follow the show on all social media at _mythunderstood. That's at _ and mythunderstood. That's Instagram and Twitter, as long as Twitter's still around. You can find Paul and Sarah at the Sarah Oliver and at the Paul Bianchi. And of course, rate and review the show on Apple Podcasts. Hey, guess what? The show's 5 years old. If you left a rating and review 5 years ago, update it. Just head on back there and leave another review. It'll bring your review back to the top. It'll give you a new timestamp. And those reviews,
You could say, "Just kidding, I hate it now."
hey, if it helps the algorithm out and the show starts getting shared more by Apple, sure, say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and throw it a 5-star. Maybe
Yeah.
4 if
no,
you.
that'll hurt my feelings.
4.5. Do they do halves? I don't know if they do halves. And of course, it is the that time of the year. So since I'm on the show, I get to be annoying here. Hey, it's the season of giving. If you would like to consider showing your support, not just for this lovely independent program, but if you'd like to show your support for the network as a whole this holiday season, if you've got it in your heart and you're feeling thankful, please consider checking out dragonwagonradio.com/support, where you can watch a fun little video of me in my underwear, and I will tell you all about how you can support Dragon Wagon Radio
Is that true?
as
What?
an independent podcast network. Thanks for letting me know that you guys have not watched the video. Thanks to everybody who joined us in the live chat. I am going to try to convince Paul and Sarah to do this a little bit more often because it's very, very fun, very enjoyable. We will figure out the technical difficulties that we had today. We'll smooth those out like an iron, get a steamer on them.
Yeah.
It'll be really lovely. Thanks for letting me be a part of it, guys.
Thank you, Daddy.
This third outing of Mythology was very, very fun.
Yeah, I know you said there were no commercial tears, but your performance on this has really brought tears to my eyes.
Yeah. 5 years. 5
Yeah.
years we've been doing this. We should all be this good.
Yeah.
Do you want to say the thing at the end?
It's your turn.
Oh wait, hang on. Listen again. This is just to let everybody know. If you're not following them on social media, and so you didn't know this was happening, like if you're listening to the pod feed and you're like, oh shit, they did a live stream, I didn't know. You got to follow them on social media so you know this, because you get the reward that everybody in the chat has been screaming at me about for the past 10 minutes, and that is an appearance by, of course, the pod dog, Campfire Jones.
Oh, come on, Campy.
I can't reach.
Oh, great, get him. Come here.
There you go.
But is he gonna?
Oh,
There
you go.
He's
There you go.
angry.
There
He's
you go.
angry.
That's
There you go. That's
perfect.
just for you guys in the live stream. Thanks for joining us. All right, say the thing that you say at the end.
Night.
Internet! I'm Coy Jandro, a Bostonian who loves pop culture, comic books, and people. And I host Coycast. It's a podcast about all those things. If it fits in on a con floor, we talk about it on Coycast. Myself and producer Jake do previews, reviews, deep dives, and tinfoil hat theories about everything from movies, TV, and the comic books themselves. I also like to dish out comic recommendations from my 100+ pull list a week so you know what's best to buy. So join us, True Believer, on Coycast.com or wherever you're listening to this podcast right now.
Dragon Wagon.